And welcome in to another episode of Off Script. My name is Zak Herbstreit. And ladies and gentlemen, Oregon fans, let's talk biggest takeaways from Oregon's spring game this past weekend. But before we get into it today, if you enjoy college football, if you enjoy the channel, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel as well. It really helps me out a lot, so I appreciate you guys. But let's get right into it here. First off, I got to say, I almost forgot this was on because it was during the draft and I just wasn't paying attention. But nevertheless, we did watch it Sunday on YouTube, so shout out Big Ten Network for throwing it out there. But initial reaction from me watching that, I back in February, without too much knowledge on this team, I knew a little bit of the returning talent they had coming back, but without basically just a loose shot in the dark with J.D. Pickell, I went on his show and just said, one of my hot takes this offseason, without kind of really having backup evidence or backup claims to this take, was I was big on Oregon potentially winning the Big Ten. And then after watching this spring game and seeing the depth of each position, the receiver core, the D-line, especially the D-line, I mean, I was blown away. And we'll get into that in a little bit as well. But just the depth of each position, how they play, the smart football they play, their discipline, just the Dan Lanning effect throughout the entire team. Plus, the new coordinators it has me a little more optimistic. I wasn't sure going in. I was like, all right, well, we'll see what it looks like. But that's as real as a game setting you can get. So shout out the people at Oregon, Autzen Stadium, filling that out for a spring game. Very impressed right there. But let's get into the takeaways from this past weekend. I also do want to reiterate that it's spring, so take it as you will. Be excited about the highs, the defensive line play, the receiver room is incredible, but also the lows, the special team yips that happened, the offensive line play looked a little shaky, so that will be all addressed in fall camp, so do not worry about that. But on to the takeaways. My biggest takeaway that I had, this Oregon defense is going to be extremely elite this upcoming season. And I feel like usually across the country, through all out spring ball, that's usually the case. The defense is just always a couple steps ahead of the offense, so that is completely normal. But watching this Oregon defense against this Oregon offense and knowing what the offense has, the talent they have on offense, I was just really excited to see this defense do what they're supposed to do. There was very limited amount of explosive runs, a lot of sacks. I feel like a lot of plays were blown dead because of the pressure of this defense. One player that I want to give a shout out to, or that was really catching my eye, was Aaron Scott Jr., transfer from Ohio State. I feel like he was just always, when he was on the field, he was just always around the ball. He was, shooting the gap, and as a corner too, you just love that mentality, that mentality of wanting to hit, wanting to get physical and just make a play. So really excited for him this upcoming season. But the one thing that was really turning my head was this defensive line. And Tank Jones, Judge Horrisk, those are two names also to look out for this upcoming season. That's a big thing that Dan Lanning was really excited about this spring, was this defensive line and the growth at that position. So defense in general is going to be a strong suit for Oregon this upcoming season. The next thing here, and this is no secret, biggest takeaway for me here is the receiving core was absolutely shining. And I do think there's an argument to be made that this is one of the better receiving cores, receiver units in all of college football, right up there with Ohio State, LSU, Notre Dame. I do think it's that talent level. And speaking of talent, when watching this spring game, you see the talent everywhere. Starting off with Decorium Moore, he's already, I feel like, in midseason form, as advertised. Really don't need to go too much into depth on him, but I do want to give Evan Stewart his flowers because the journey from being injured to fighting, rehabbing, all the way back to playing at full speed, cutting at full speed, jumping at full speed, getting back to that. I mean, even Dan Lanning was impressed with his overall growth this spring, his hunger to get back. So watching him and have a great spring game as well. He had a huge catch down the right sideline. It's just great to see. I don't want to say emotional, but you're just happy for the guy and just excited for him this upcoming season. But also I want to talk about the depth of at the position in general. And I think that's a really testament to, recruiting, transfer portals, and also it's big too because a big reason why Oregon really didn't have their fastball as much in the postseason is because of the lack of depth at different positions, especially the running back position last year. J.D. Pickell had Will Stein on, who was the offensive coordinator at Oregon last year. He's now the head coach at Kentucky, but he was saying a big reason why they couldn't do what they wanted to do on offense was they just didn't have the depth at running back. And Oregon fans, you probably know better than anyone. You're like, who's running the ball for us right now? Last year. So I think just having depth in general at any position is going to be huge for postseason play and just throughout the season. So that is one of the bigger things that I did see in the spring game. And the last thing here, and I think this is a really interesting one. I know a lot of people are going to like this as well. But QB1's already unlocked, Dante Moore. But that QB2 position, it's going to be up for grabs. So Raiola versus Brock Thomas, QB battle in the fall. And I feel like people watching this are going to be like, well, why are you even bringing this up? We already have QB1 unlocked. Dante Moore is the guy, which I agree with. But, Heisman caliber guy, has one playoff game. So why does QB2 even matter? The only time he'll get any reps is garbage time, and it doesn't matter at all. And while that's true, you already have a stud at quarterback. I do think it's pretty interesting about the future of the program in general and kind of where it's going to be shaped. Because right now, if I were to pick one QB2, I think I'd go Brock Thomas, just because longevity in the program, knows the offense a little bit better. Because Raiola just got there, so it's hard to be neck and neck with someone who's been in the program, been in the offense for so long, knows where to go with the ball, been around the guys longer too. Just chemistry's there compared to Dylan. But nevertheless, I do think it's going to be an interesting battle throughout fall. And that's something to watch throughout fall. Both have pretty good arm strength. Both go out there and just they're playing free, playing loose. When I was watching, Raiola took a little time to settle in, but then he started, getting his flow in. That's also hard coming off an injury. Very similar to Evan Stewart. And then getting right back in and trying to get back in the flow of things. So going to be interesting to see what happens there. But Oregon fans, that's all I have for today. Those are the big 3 takeaways that I had. But I want to ask you, what were your biggest takeaways from the Oregon spring game? Love to hear from you guys. Like I said, this is Off Script. My name's Zak Herbstreit. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video. I'll see you guys soon.